So hey everyone, it's Greg here from GB Productions. I'm here with Mitchell again. We're going to do a little tutorial for you how to change a tire on a rim. So if you've got a blown tire that you took off your car and you bought a new tire that you want to put on, you don't want to pay somebody to change the tire on the rim for you. We're going to show you how you can do that with a cheap manual tire changer. This one's from Princess Auto, I think, but pretty much any department store could probably get one. Bigger shops have the air-powered machines that you just put the rim on and it takes the tire off for you, and it's got powered jaws to break the bead. We're going to do it manually, which is a little slower and a little harder, but doesn't cost any money. So yeah, we're going to start with this blown trailer tire here. It's got a huge gash right through the side of the tire here, so definitely not holding air anymore. And we've got another used tire there to throw on just so we can make the trailer mobile. So you're good with camera angle there, and come give me a hand to break this here.
That should work.
Our machine has done a lot of tires over the years, and so the jaw for breaking the bead doesn't always grab like it's supposed to, so we just have a second person with a pry bar to hold it in place. This one has a pointed kind of a hook there that you hook the rim over so that it doesn't slide out on you. And then the little finger jaw goes in the bead here between the tire and the rim. And then if we get it all lined up here, Mitchell gets hooked in there and then pushes it towards the rim for me. Try and get it right into the rim just like that. That one was exceptionally easy, but sometimes it's not quite that simple. And then you flip it over, and always try and have the stem away from all the prying action that's going on if you care about the stem. If you're going to put a new one in, which I would recommend if it's going on your car, then it doesn't really matter so much. Okay. Just like that. Nice and easy, way easier than the other ones that we just did. With this, once the tire is free from the rim, see that? Good.
Yep.
Is the post on the top here goes through the center of the rim. There's a little finger that goes through the bolt hole so that the tire or the rim can't rotate while you're trying to pry the tire off it. And then there's a little four-fingered part here that just applies the force to the rim as opposed to mangling it with rotating the top nut here. And just tighten it up a little bit so it doesn't slip all over the place. Okay. And then again, thinking about if you care about the stem and to make your life easier, the stem is right here, so when you're going to start to take the tire off, start on either side of the stem, usually the left side. Hook the bar in, make sure the tire is down off of the main bead. Otherwise it's going to be a lot harder. Fold it over, and then it's just a game of tug of war. Oh, and I did mention that you should take the tire or the lead wheel weights off first to make your life a little easier. In this case, it's not a big deal. The tire is really soft. This one's full of water. And voila, the old tire is off. When Mitchell zooms in here, these are the lead wheel weights. And if you're going to put a new tire on, you definitely want to take the old weights off before you try and slide the tire on by hand. So in this case, we need a screwdriver to get the old ones off. And a hammer would be ideal if you have one. There's one. Oops. And just make sure you get all of them. This one over here. Like so. And then now, this one's actually not in bad shape compared to the other one we just did, but if the bead is really rusty, that's what they call the bead of the rim, and the bead of the tire sits on that surface there. If that surface is really rusty or covered in shale or really rough, then there's no point in putting a new tire on without first cleaning it up. Otherwise, there's a very low chance that it's actually going to seal and not leak the air out on you. So what I'm going to do is grab the angle grinder with a power wire wheel on it, and I'll just buzz around quickly. This one's not bad, the other one was a lot worse, just to take away all the loose rust and shale. And then what you can do if you're really concerned about it, or if the wheels are going to be used in the wintertime with the salt, is use some kind of a sealant. I don't know what the brand of the stuff we usually use is, but it's like a black, I think it's actually silicone based now, but it's a sealant that goes between the bead surface of the tire and the bead surface of the rim to make sure that that doesn't leak. And if you put a new stem in and make sure that there's no rust there, then unless you've got a faulty tire or a faulty core, then it's going to be good to go for you.
Okay.
So we're back again here with the grinder now. Just another reason why you might want to take the wheel weights off the rim before you take your tire off. If you actually care about the tire that you're taking off, in this case we don't because it's garbage. But if you want to change the tire over to another rim and use it on something else, then there is possibility for damage to the bead of the tire when you slip it across the wheel weight. So general practice, good idea to just take all the weights off before you decide to dismount or mount a tire. That way you're only dealing with the rim itself. And again, when you're cleaning up the bead, if you've got a sharp spot around the outside lip of the rim, you're going to want to do something with that, because again, same idea, you'll cut the bead of the tire when you're trying to push it over. So take your wheel weights off first, basically. So I've got a wire wheel here on the grinder, and I've also got what they call a flap disc, which is just squares of sandpaper glued on. Because if you have a high spot of shale on the bead surface and the wire wheel is not going to take it off, you don't want to leave that. So then you got to use something a little more aggressive. You don't want to go to grindstone, because then that's really going to take the metal away. But something like this that'll take away the shale to give you a smooth surface, so the tire will actually seal when you put it together. So I'm going to start with the wire wheel and just see how it comes out, and we can use the flap disc if necessary. Good? Oh, always wear safety glasses when you're using one of these things. These ones, the wire bristles come out of the cup as you use it, and they'll stick into your clothing and stuff, and you don't want one stuck in your eye. So wear your safety glasses. That's our disclaimer for today. For being what I thought was a charged battery, obviously it was not. So just another side note on this before I go get more batteries. If you're doing this on aluminum rims, don't. Obviously the wire wheel is going to take off the aluminum way faster than steel. So if you have an aluminum set of rims that you're going to do, probably just a hand wire brush and maybe some fairly fine sandpaper, and again just by hand if you've got a bad spot. But if you take the wire wheel to it, it's going to make big grooves and take away the material really fast. So we'll be right back. Really quick way to find out if you got a bad spot is just to run your hand carefully around it. And as long as there's no really high spots or sharp spots, the tire will seal up the rest of it. I think that'll be good enough for what we're doing here. The battery's just about done too. Now, doing the upside down one is a little more tricky. You can just take the rim off the stand if you need to, but I usually try and just do it on here. Alright, the top looks a lot better than the bottom, so. put a tire on by hand like we're gonna do, you gotta make sure this top lip of the rim is not sharp, not rusty. Otherwise, again, you could damage the tire trying to install it. And if it's a brand new tire, that's gonna be pretty disappointing. So I think that's probably pretty good. Mitch, I can show you a close-up. This rim's got some bad pitting in certain places, but the main part that seals is actually, go down here for a sec. The main part that seals is actually here, that surface. So if this part's bad, that's not a huge deal, other than as long as the rim is still structurally sound. But this curved part, that's where the tire actually seals. And of course that stops the tire from flying off of the rim when you put air in it. So I think that'll probably do it for this one. There's just a little bit of paint here still. And paint isn't a big deal as long as it's not really rough or a high spot. Probably work, I think. I just realized I didn't grab the lubricant that we're going to use to put the tire on, so I better go grab that, and then we can put this on. Alright, so I don't know if I mentioned it before, but especially if this is your car that you're putting this on, you know, to drive down the highway, I would definitely recommend putting a new valve stem in. I've actually got some new ones here. I had planned to put new in these ones, and they turned out to be okay, and for the trailer that it's going to be not a big deal, but it's good. There we go. Right, valve stem, they always come with a new cap and a new core in them. Sometimes the core is not tight, however, so it's a good idea to tighten the core if you have a core tool. But yeah, if you're going to be driving this car, you know, high speed, lots of the time, probably worth investing in a couple of bucks to put a new valve stem in it. This one we took the core out of before to drain the air. I'm going to put a core back in it now. If you have compressed air available to you, it's your friend. Don't point it at yourself, but it's really, really good for making this somewhat sterile, which it's kind of supposed to be able to seal. And that's what the core tool looks like. There's different kinds, but that's the most basic one. I'm just gonna double check that it's clear. So then just pop the core in if you've had it out, or tighten it if it's a new stem. And with enough hands, spin the core in. It needs to be snug. You don't want to tighten it too much because you'll just strip the threads on the core, but it's got a rubber seal inside there, so if it's not tight if it's not tight enough, then it will leak slowly over time, which is not going to help you if it's your car that you're parking at work all day. Good?
Yep.
And then yeah, if you've wire wheeled the rim, just give it a quick clean up, or you can just take a rag and wipe the bead surface again just to make sure that it's clean to seal with the new tire. And as for the tire, even if you're putting a new tire on, I would still recommend dusting out the inside of the tire. If Mitchell changes the camera here. This one actually right now, I don't know if you can see all the dirt in the bottom of there. Could go this way.
Not really.
Anyway, there's a bunch of rust and sand and stuff in the sticker from the tire in there from taking it off. So you don't want that stuff in there because, again, it could potentially compromise the seal, or if it's something sharp, damage the inside of the tire if it happens to be soft for any period of time. So I'm just going to try and blow all that out and also blow around where the tire actually seals, and then we'll get to putting it on here. So if you're putting on a used tire and it has some metal shale stuck to the rubber still, probably a good idea to chisel that off even with a screwdriver before you bother trying to put it on. I took away the grinder, so I'll use this, I guess. Actually, you know what? When you've got the tool, make sure you use them. You gotta be careful with this though, of course, because again, metal wheel takes off rubber really fast. So you just basically dust it. And make sure there's no steel left stuck to the tire. Depending on the type of tire or the purpose that it was designed for, it might be directional, so you have to pay attention if there's any markings on the side of the tire to tell you which way it's supposed to rotate once it's installed. In this case, I'm pretty sure they're unidirectional. But if you've got snow tires that are V-tread of any kind, they got to go a certain way. If you've got a performance, racing tire of any kind that's got a directional tread, make sure you put it on the right way around. In some cases it can cause the tire to do stupid things, but in most cases it just won't function the way that it was designed to. So this one had the white wall in, so we'll do the same. We don't need white walls on our trailer. I'm gonna stand there now. All right, and then once you're all cleaned up and ready to go, make sure you've got the tire chuck ready on the air again, so as soon as you get the tire on, you can put air in it so that it'll seal. That's that, and then we've got Tire Slick is the brand of this one, but basically it's just a lubricant to put on the rim and on the tire, mainly on the tire, before you go to put the tire on. Only if you're doing it by hand. If you're doing a machine, you don't really need it, but it makes it a heck of a lot easier. And of course, the tire being soft and warm helps a lot too. So put some of this on the tire, and then we'll stick the tire on here, hopefully relatively easily, and put some air in it. And I just have a paintbrush, any kind of a soft bristled brush, just to spread the lubricant around. You can just use your finger if you wanted to, I guess. But and the inside is this one, so I always do the inside of the outer bead, because that has to slip over here at the end, and then the outside of the inner as well as the inside of the inner, just to make a good seal. Or sorry, that's backwards. Outside of the inner, inside of the outer, and outside of the outer. And then I usually rotate the tire a little bit before putting air in to make sure it's going to be a good seal. So inside of this one. And being generous with this stuff is not a bad idea. It dries pretty quick, so you gotta work fairly quickly too. And then as quickly as you can, because like I said, it's drying, so. And sometimes this works easily, sometimes not so much if the tire's not. You can use the bar, but if you've got nice painted rim that you've done up to put on your car or whatever, you don't want to chew the paint off it, so. As the red paint goes into the tire bead, that's what you got. Rotate it a little bit. And then put some air in it. Make sure you're not standing over top of it. And a lot of times it's a heck of a lot bigger bang than that, but you don't want to be standing near it when it does that. And then take it right up to what the sidewall of the tire says for max pressure, not what your car says, to seat the beads properly. And then you can check for leaks. These ones are only 35 psi because they're fairly old. Most tires now are up towards 51, but make sure you check the tire. And the nice thing about using the bead slick too is you can check around the bead and see if the lubricant is bubbling anywhere. That'll tell you right away if you've got a leak or not. So that's 38. That's lots to be able to see it and tell whether or not it's got a leak going on. And then of course, once you know it's good, lower it down to whatever pressure you want to run it at. Depending on the weight of the vehicle, you have to decide whether what the tire says is appropriate or not. So let's take it off of here and just check the other side too. As long as it's not gurgling out of anywhere, we're probably good to go. And of course you're listening to, if you can hear air, you've got a big leak. So, yeah. And then I think we've got a nice valve cap over here to put on. If you don't have valve caps on your wheels, try and find some. Keeps the dirt and the water and salt if it's winter time, if you live where they use salt, out of there. Those kind of things can make the core stop sealing, and then your tire's going flat and you're trying to figure out why and it won't hold air. That could be why. So just a couple of other little things once you've got your tire mounted and inflated. During the inflating process, again, stand as far away as you can while being able to put air in, and you're listening to hear two distinct pops, one being the upper bead, which is usually the shorter step. So it doesn't take as much for that one to pop. But the back of the tire, the back of the rim, usually the first section, the first diameter is a much deeper step. So it takes a lot more air pressure and force to push the bead of the tire past that. So you want to make sure for sure that you hear two distinct pops. These ones were kind of lazy, but if the tire is a summer tire as opposed to a winter tire, a little harder rubber, then it tends to pop. And of course, if there's a little more resistance on the bead, one, because of rust, and two, whether you used a lubricant like this or something else, or even just some soapy water or something, but you want to make sure that you have both sides fully onto the bead and don't stick your head near it if you're not sure. And then the other thing once it's on is to take a look. I don't know if the camera's close enough, but you want to look at, there's a little rib of rubber all the way around the tire bead just outside of the rim, and you want to make sure the distance between the rubber and the rim is all the same all the way around. If it's not, it could mean that one part of the bead didn't seat fully, or maybe the rim could actually be bent, and if you go to try and balance them either yourselves or pay somebody, it's really not going to balance well, if at all. And of course, if you're paying a shop to do it, they're just going to do the best they can, and then you're going to put it on your car and have a nice shaky ride. So you want to make sure that it all looks parallel all the way around both sides. And also, if you happen, that's what I was going to mention before and I forgot, was if you see any bulges anywhere around the sidewall of the tire, or especially in the tread face, or a low spot's not as big of a deal, just means that could be where the two belts joined, for example. But if you've got a lump, then it's probably a good chance that the belt or the cord itself is starting to let go there, and so the air pressure is pushing out at that point, and it's probably not safe to drive on the road. If you see one in the tread face, not only is it going to cause a really rough ride, but again, it could blow the tire when driving along. So just little things to look for to keep yourself safe, especially if you're using used tires. Not that it couldn't happen with a new tire, because I have had some faulty new tires if they're a really cheap brand over the years, but generally a tire that's got a lot of mileage on it and you're putting it onto something else, you could have some of those defects. But making sure that it's centered is important if you want to have a good balanced job and ultimately good tread life and wear in the long run. That's pretty much it, I think. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them below the video. Like the video and subscribe to GB Productions. Hit the little bell so you get notifications when we post new content like this. And thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.
And if you're interested in seeing how a wheel is balanced, we already have a video up on wheel balancing. And if you visit our Instagram page at GB Productions 1, we have some behind the scenes content and just some other stuff that we do on there. So yeah, check it out. Thanks for watching.